9. So let's just jump into it. So as you can see, I have this lovely Stitch sprite rolling around on the screen here. But before I get into like the actual implementation, let's just take a look at the cameras here. So I have an orthographic default camera set up in my camera manager. So in every scene I should have a default 3D camera and a default orthographic camera set up and accessible by all of these objects. So as you can see in render sprite, in my base sprite class, I'm calling sprite image render. So I do have like a graphics object, graphics object that's in the base sprite class, because I figured that most sprites wouldn't need to have more than one graphics object, and I could set it up differently, but this just made things easier for now, and it kind of makes sense to me. So maybe there's going to be a different implementation down the line, but whatever. So I only do have one graphics object per sprite with this implementation. So I'm just going to call render sprite, and then I'm rendering it with the 2D cam from this scene. Okay, so here are my lovely methods to actually change the position, rotation, and scale. So I have 3 that are going by factor, so I'm changing the position, rotation, and scale by factor here. And then I only have 2 that are changing it by pixel, because I didn't really understand how to change the rotation by pixel. I don't even know if that's possible or necessary for this assignment. But yeah, so, and I also have a set origin, which is just taking the origin and the matrix here and setting it based on the row type. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Oh, I'm also setting the, I'm using a default texture and a default image here. I've set the default texture to this stitch.tga. Yeah, so great. I have defaults. Let's move on to the actual implementation. So Stitch is inheriting from Sprite, and I'm just calling the defaults again here because I'm using Stitch for the default, so I guess it makes sense. But in the draw method here, I'm just taking a float and applying them to all of my movement methods here. So you get that nice sort of weird rotation effect if you just call all of them all at once, or one after another rather. Okay, so let's just check and see that these are all working. So I'm going to call change rotation and set origin. So should see it rotating, and then slowly but surely the origin will shift and Stitch will start rotating like so. So the origin's somewhere over here now. Great. Okay. So change position by factor. So that should take its original position and just slowly move it up by the X and the Y. That might be kind of hard to see on YouTube, but I am incrementing very slowly. So let's just bump this up. Oh man, I'm doing this real slow, I'm sorry. Okay. Change position by pixel. So that's just slowly creeping up from the side there, so the position is 0, 0 down here. Oh man, I am so sorry for being slow. Alright, change scale by factor. Yep, that's as creepy as I thought it would be. And then change scale by pixel. There he is. And that's significantly slower. Alright, cool. So let's see what we got here. So in the drawable, I actually considered using an enum to control the the position at which the sprite's going to be drawn. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. So let's just go over to the actual scene demo here. So as you can see, I'm calling a new stitch object, and that's the first thing that I'm calling, so it's actually going to be drawn, or it would have been drawn first in the stack here, and would have been covered by all of these other objects. But I'm using a command pattern to actually draw it last. So in, let's see, where is it? I think it's Drawable Manager. So I actually have two collections of the whatchamacallit, the drawable collections, and then I'm calling the 2D collection last. So I considered using an enum and just setting a type. So for every sprite object, I would have to set draw type equal to draw 2D rather than 3D, and 3D being the default. And that seemed to work, but I think this is a little bit better because with this method, I did have an if statement in my my drawable manager. So let's see. Yeah, so you can see right here, I had an if else, and it was just checking the type. But this is so much better. So I have another list, and then I'm just calling register 3D and register 2D based on the command. And I initially had a deregister 2D, but I realized that I didn't need that. So, alright, and you saw the results. So I think that should be about it for this sprint. Alright, see you in class.